Alright, here's a little update on my Nikon Z8, which I have back in my hands again. It was away at Nikon twice, once for the lens mount repair, which I didn't experience that problem, but my serial number, for my Z8 said it was affected by that. I think that was mostly with a few specific lenses. I've seen somebody test it with the 35mm f1.8. That's the Z mount lens from Nikon. Seemed like the mount on that was just a little bit thicker, and it was causing that spring to get caught on the lens mount. So anyway, had that done, and of course, wouldn't you know, like no more than a week or so after I get my camera back, they announced that recall, which, well, not recall, it's a service advisory, for the camera strap, the strap, strap lug is what they call it, I guess, or eyelet. You'll see that eyelet repair on the work order from Nikon when you get your camera back. But it's the the metal straps on the left or right side of the camera. One here that you would attach your camera strap to. So the one on the right side by the grip, there were people posting pictures on the forums where this one had fallen out. I mean, it just literally fell out of the camera. And some people said they heard something shaking around the camera, something loose. So Nikon started checking that out, and they got on it quickly. And turns out somebody posted more pictures of the hole that the strap lug goes into. And you can see when you look back inside the hole, on the bottom of it, there's another hole. So basically what happens is this strap lug, the metal strap lug, has a hole in it. So when that goes in, it's basically like a stud with a hole in it. So that goes in the camera horizontally, and then vertically there's a retaining pin that goes metal, we assume it's metal, goes up inside the strap lug, through that hole to keep it from pulling out. So it should be a really secure connection, and it normally is. The only thing we don't know is how that retaining pin was held in. Now, some people said that they were getting their cameras back, or talked to people at Nikon Repair, and they were kind of telling them that it was some kind of a heavy-duty epoxy they were applying to fix this. And the fix, some people freaked out on the forums. Oh my God, they're just gluing the strap lug in there. No, they're not gluing the strap lug in. There's industrial epoxy or some type of adhesive they're using to capture that retaining pin so it stays locked into the strap lug, so it just won't pull out. The service advisory specifically said something about cameras could experience this malfunction if you had some impact on the eyelet, or if you were carrying heavy lenses frequently. And by the way, I'm using my Nikon ZFC to record this 4K 24p, and this is the Viltrox 75mm f1.2 lens. I believe the aperture set to f1.8. If I'm looking at it correctly, I believe that's what I have it set to. And I'm just using the SnapBridge app to trigger the recording, through Bluetooth control. It's basically remote control. It's not the streaming to my phone situation where that would be, I forget what they call that option, but there's a Bluetooth remote control kind of thing. You're just basically using it to trigger a recording or trigger a photo to be taken. And then there's another option to just stream the video to your camera, and I found that streaming it while trying to record video, sometimes you don't get the best focusing. So anyway, that's what I'm using to record this, and my Godox UHF microphones, which hopefully I've got them all plugged in well, because I did have some audio cutouts with the this microphone, because I think the cord on the back of the receiver on the camera was not plugged in well. Well, yeah, the cord going into the back of the Godox device, not going into the camera. So anyway, had my Z8 back. Fortunately, I sent the camera in absolutely pristine condition, like new condition, and I got it back in the same condition, so thankfully that's, it turned out exactly the way it should have. None of the settings were lost. They're not supposed to do anything with the settings, but they do have to disassemble the camera somewhat. Top plate has to come off because that's where the strap lug is. And There's a video and some still photos from a company called Kalari Vision. They do like infrared conversions for cameras, and they have a teardown video, a breakdown video of the Z8, but it doesn't, unfortunately, show close-ups of how the strap lug mounts in the camera, because everybody was really curious to see how that is, how exactly they're holding that retaining pin up into the strap lug. So I'd love to see that myself, but it is a very secure system as long as that retaining pin stays in. If that retaining pin falls out, and unfortunately it's vertical, like I said, it just falls straight out into the camera somehow. So we don't know on the body, that the top plate goes into, attaches to, is that retaining pin supposed to be held in by some kind of a bracket or a piece of the body itself, so when you put the top plate on, that retaining pin is locked in place, and maybe that's not the case because, again, some people, that were carrying heavy lenses, and I heard one person say, well, here I saw it in the forum, they had used, took their Z8 biking, so they'd have it around their body, the camera with the strap, and while riding a bicycle, so that's going to get a lot of shaking around. So that kind of makes sense. That Nikon said it's due to if you receive some impact on the strap lug, or carrying heavy lenses, so something in there, it's just working itself loose. That retaining pin's able to fall out. So anyway, all fixed up. Nikon basically, from what I understand, pulled back all the stock they had from the dealers. They're going to fix those and then, send them back out to be sold. All the customer cameras, mine, I sent it in on a Friday. UPS picked it up Friday evening. It traveled on the weekend, and unfortunately, it's normally a 2-day trip, even on the weekend, but unfortunately, UPS left it sitting in somewhere in Pennsylvania or New Jersey for a day, and then it finally got to New York. So once Nikon got it, they received it one day. The very next day they fixed it, and it was listed as shipped, but it hadn't actually shipped out yet. It shipped out on, I believe, Thursday of this week. I'm not sure what is today. See if I can look at my phone without shutting off. I don't know what today is. It's the middle of August 2023, I know that. Anyway, it shipped out on a Thursday, traveled Friday, traveled Thursday, traveled all day Friday, and then was delivered Saturday. So I had it back on Saturday. So from the time that they received it and had it in their hands, I had it back like 5-6 days later. So pretty quick turnaround. It appears that they weren't really doing a priority for NPS members, Nikon Professional Services. So anybody that sends their Z8 in, you have to fill out that form, and then you may or may not get a shipping form right away, shipping label. But because they're trying to stagger this based on how much workforce they have to actually get the task done. So you fill out the form for the service advisory, and then it might be a couple days later. It was only about 2-3 days later for me. I got a shipping form, or shipping label, UPS shipping label, packed it up, sent it out, and the whole process took about, from the day I left it at the UPS pickup, about 7 or 8 days. So it's pretty good. Obviously, people were frustrated about that. I was frustrated about it too. I don't like to send, as a hobby for me, I don't like to send a $4,000 camera in the mail twice, because sometimes something happens in shipment. It's either stolen or damaged. We've seen other people had problems with their shipping in the forums. I'll post about that. A box that comes back all tore up. I will say, the first time it came back, I'm just sharing this experience, so bear with me. If you don't want to hear all this, you can go watch something else. When I first got my Z8 back for the first time from the lens mount repair, it was in a kind of an oversized box, and it was stuffed in some really super heavy-duty bubble wrap. I mean, it was really heavy-duty bubble wrap, and then wedged in diagonally in that box, so it just couldn't move, and it was fully protected unless you totally crushed the box. When it came back for this eyelet repair, the strap lug mount repair, this time I was not really very happy with it, because the grip was kind of like a ½ inch from the top of the box, because they just put it in packing peanuts, and it was in a box that wasn't really a whole lot bigger than a camera. So it was just in like some biodegradable packing peanuts, and the camera was wrapped in plastic and then some really cheap bubble wrap. And then so, with packing peanuts, it just kind of, as the box shakes around, it just kind of works its way up to the top or to the edge of the box. So if UPS had thrown that box around just in the wrong way, it could have damaged my camera. So that was pretty aggravating. Fortunately, I got lucky and nothing was damaged, but I think that's something they could improve. And Nikon apparently didn't do the repair on this. It was electronic imaging services, I believe was the name. There's another company they use called, what's the name of that? Anyway, that place was in Brooklyn. The shipping came back from a Brooklyn address, so I think they probably packed it up like that. I think if it was coming from Nikon Melville, New York, the headquarters, they wouldn't pack it crappy like that. So anyway, don't mean to be a whiner about it, but again, if you're spending $4,000 on a camera body and it's really just a hobby for you, you don't want your camera damaged just by something silly like packing or shipping. Because I plan to keep this for several years, probably 4 or 5, just depends on what camera comes out next, and if I have money saved to buy something different, if I get tired of this. But this, honestly, is a wonderful camera, other than those 2 issues that are now worked out, which is unfortunate for Nikon. It's going to eat up some of their profits, but they've got, 2-3 years more of selling this camera, so they should make a good amount of money on it. But it is a wonderful camera. All the technology works fine. These 2 things that happened were just mechanical issues, not a big deal in the long run. But yeah, if your camera strap lug pulls out and your camera drops onto the concrete and breaks, or breaks your lens, or breaks the camera and the lens, or it goes into water, so that's another issue. You might be standing in 2 feet of water or more, in the ocean or a stream, taking photos, making photos, and then your strap lug unexpectedly pulls out and it drops in the water. Now what? Now they do say the service advisory, just like the lens mount, is forever, whether the camera's in warranty or not. You can just send it in to Nikon. It's a free repair, whether you're the original owner or not, doesn't matter. Send it in, they'll fix it, send it back to you for free shipping and everything. So anyway, if you like this look, again, this is the Nikon ZFC at 4K 24p with the Viltrox 75mm f1.2 lens, and this is, again, it's an APS-C lens, so it's designed for APS-C cameras, but like I said, I'm probably going to use it on my Z8 more often because the lens doesn't have IBIS, doesn't have image stabilization, or VR as Nikon calls it, but the Z8 does, and so it makes more sense for me to use it on the Z8. Plus, with the Z8 resolution, I get almost the same resolution I would out of the ZFC using that lens on the Z8. So it really just makes more sense, and it handles better on this camera. This is the Z105mm macro that I'm holding here. And there's now a ZF camera coming out. There's already been leaked photos of it on Nikon Rumors. So if you want to see that, it looks pretty much like a ZFC, a little bit bigger. It's not a ton bigger, but it does have in-body image stabilization. It's got, it's got a flippy screen, a fully articulating screen that flips out just like the ZFC. Supposedly the sensor is around 24 megapixels. It's supposedly got some new autofocus tricks, but probably won't be as good as the Z8, but it's, from what I hear, it is going to have 3D tracking, so it might be a really nice all-around camera with a retro look if you're interested in that. I'm not interested in it right away, but eventually I may replace my ZFC with that. It make more sense to have 2 full-frame bodies instead of a APS-C and a full-frame. But again, that's not really in my plan right now. I probably would rather have another lens right now instead of a replacement for the ZFC. And the ZF is supposedly going to be around $2,000. So if everything is true about it, and there's pictures of it on Nikon Rumors already, if I didn't say that already, looks like it's going to be a really nice camera. And the ZFC actually is a really nice camera, and the Z50 for what they are. Well, actually, the ZFC is better than Z50 as far as the features that it has, better autofocus and so on. All right, so I'll stop with that. And again, I'm this Viltrox 75mm, really happy with that. Beautiful images out of it. As you can see, this is f1.8, and I'm about, about 7 feet from the camera. So that's what this looks at f1.8 on the ZFC. You can see where the background is. The background, nearest thing, the trees, I guess, are probably this tree over here. Probably can't really see that. That's about 20 feet. The other trees are probably 75 feet or more away. So should be pretty well blown out. All right, let's see if I can stop this now using, again, the SnapBridge app. Yeah. just using it to trigger the video. So I'll stop that. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch.